Round number 7 of the 2022 Washington, D.C. region SCCA Virtual Racing League takes the field all the way to the West Coast, Northern California and WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, a 12-turn, 2.5-mile road course that is as famous as it is treacherous for drivers and teams alike. And it's time to go racing for one 30-minute race tonight with 2 car classes at this dusty but fantastic-looking racetrack, Finian. The Corkscrew, this is one of the most famous corners in the entire world. You think about Eau Rouge, you think about the Dipper, you think about the Corkscrew at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
Yeah, there have been so many amazing moments in that corner over the years. It's a reason why it's so historic around the globe, as you mentioned. And just this track in general, one of the most popular and well-known American racetracks. So glad to have this series come here. We've kind of been ticking the box for all the great American tracks.
Looking down from high above here, and it is a gorgeous afternoon here in the simulator and at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Cool temperature, 66 degrees Fahrenheit in the air, 69 degrees Fahrenheit on the racetrack, rather, as we head down for qualifying, and it is already underway. Head down to the racetrack. Slightly smaller field this week here, Finian, so this should mean manageable efforts for most of the group. Got about 7 Ford FR500 Mustangs and about 22 of the third-generation Mazda MX-5 Miata, but pretty stout field in either of the 2 categories. Paul Darling in the Mustangs, perhaps the one to watch there, but Mike Leader is here, so is Jake King and Kyle Herbst. And then on the MX-5 side, DJ Alessandrini, Morgan Burkhardt, perhaps the 2 to watch, Ken Ausiel, Ryan Maloney, and more. And Alessandrini's got a brand new wheel on his rig tonight, one of those fancy schmancy ones, the Formula rims with the double clutches and all that fun stuff.
Oh, really? The Fanatic ones?
Yeah, something like that. He sent me a picture, and he said he financed it through PayPal. So that's financing sim racing equipment. That's DJ for you. But rolling his way through turn number 4 right now. And a look down again at some of the corners on this racetrack. It all starts with a run past the start-finish line into turn number 1. This is actually turn number 1 right up here. Turn number 2 here is the Andretti hairpin. That leads to turn number 3, which is this right-hander. Turn number 4 after the Firestone Bridge. Then turn 5 heading to the uphill. Then turn 6. This is a fun one, Finian. You kind of nestle down in the banking and sling the car through.
Yeah, you sling the car through. You basically throw the car through there, and you kind of just hope you put in enough wheel input. Make sure you don't clobber the curb at the apex, and then make sure you don't go too wide on exit. Then here we go, famous corner that needs no mention, down to the Corkscrew. Deep on the brakes, down the hill you go. Want to make sure you don't cut the corner, because we've seen in the past quite a few guys cut the corner there and cause themselves time having to give up to a black flag.
Corner 7 and 8 is the Corkscrew. The 9 was the one he just went through, the kind of flowing left-hander. 10 is this one here, the right-hander that leads to this short little straight to a great passing opportunity into turn number 11 on the brakes. This is the final corner on the racetrack. Back on throttle. That will complete a lap here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. The Mustangs are doing this in about 1:34. The MX-5 is about 1:38. So only a second gap. At a track that has a relatively short lap time. So we'll see some lap traffic here, perhaps, Finian, but I don't think we're going to see them lap cars multiple times or anything like that.
No, I think maybe probably one pass for these guys, and that should be it. Granted, if we do get some stragglers in the MX-5, they might have to face them twice. Taking a look at Jay King in the 39, yet to put a time down. That's not due to lack of trying. He's on his 3rd timed lap, just has not gotten the time up on the board. So he's running out of opportunities to get a valid time in.
And I want to get a look at the brake rotors on this car as well, because it's got nice glow to it, using the brakes a lot here, especially into the Andretti hairpin here as well. Already brakes glowing in the daylight, and even into turn 5, which is not really that heavy of a braking zone, but certainly these 3,600-pound cars leaning on all their bits of performance around here. This is not a Mustang-friendly track. This is a flowing, handling track, something much better suited to the MX-5 in the MX-5 class.
Up the hill he goes, down to the Corkscrew. You're definitely going to see the brakes glowing here as you take a nice look at him flying down to the Corkscrew. A little bit of sand on the inside. So I'm not sure if he got a 1X there. I'm concerned because if he doesn't get it this time, he's going to have one more attempt at a time lap.
And then turn number 9, another corner that's not friendly to the Mustang platform. A lot of flowing corners. Not a ton of aero on these cars and pretty skinny tires, all things considered. At turn number 11, though, the point and shoot. Not a bad car to drive there, and up onto the front straightaway for Jake. And this time through, will log a 1:34.043. It will count, and he will go to 2nd place.
You got a lot of pressure off of him. Meanwhile, looking at Paul Darling working his way around. He's only on his 1st time lap. That's probably going to be a 1X, I would safely bet.
Really close. They've actually moved the off-track area further off course here at turn 11. That AstroTurf used to be no-go, but it is now fair game to drive on that. And Darling comes across the stripe and logs a 1:33.891, which should put him second, and it does. Jonathan Crane is the only Ford that has not yet put down a time here in qualifying, and I don't think he's going to get the chance unless he gets on track soon.
I was going to say, he's not even in the server, so.
Well, that is going to hurt his opportunities, I would think. Morgan Burkhardt to the top in MX-5s. That's a great lap for him, up by 2.5 tenths on Alessandrini in the number 2. And Morgan has been really at the forefront of the MX-5 class all season long, continues to put in a good effort week in and week out.
Yeah, actually, speaking of DJ, he's coming around the final corner this time by to try to see if he can beat Burkhardt's lap. But Burkhardt throwing him through the opposite side of the track. Here comes DJ to the line. Can he beat Burkhardt? He has one more lap after this if he doesn't.
Yeah, that was looked like a cool down, or it didn't count. It didn't go in the logbook there. Morgan took a really aggressive entry to turn 6 towards the uphill, and then another aggressive line down through the corkscrew, and he looks really hooked up right now. I'd say that he's got this thing in pretty good shape, and he is up by, it says 7 tenths on the timing screen, Finian, but that seems like a whole lot. We'll see.
Oh yeah, it definitely does seem like a whole lot. Off of his best lap, this lap looks a bit slower off the data I'm seeing, but we'll see if as he comes across the line, if he does actually improve.
Time to beat is a 1:37.946, and across the line a 1:38.539, so much slower. And he will bail out, as that is all he's got for qualifying effort. Ken Ausil is on track, only 4th quick. As he enters the final corner, we'll see if he can pick up a little bit of time, but like the delta is in the red for Ken. Not cross the line here, needs to beat a 1:38.479 to move up. 1:38.798 is a little slower than his last.
He's gonna have, I think he's on his last attempt right now. Looking at DJ, he's up 2 tenths on his fastest lap, so it might be close for him to get pole. Has to nail these last few corners, so it just dipped down to 0.1 only over, so he's just on the cusp of getting it through.
Oh, he's wide for sure there at turn number 10, and immediately he's going to throw the car down pit lane, and that will get for DJ. Other cars on track, here's Sam Scott. He's coming across the line. This will be his last lap. Not a lap this time. 4 previous ones were off tracks. That time through a 39.082 will put him in the top 10, only 8th quick.
And notably, Colin Daner sitting on pit lane didn't get a valid time at all, so his qualifying effort is done already.
Carlos Pratt, who's on track and has not yet put a time in the books. Up across the start-finish line here, we'll see where this lands him in the 28 car MX-5 grid, a 1:41.292. This is only his first lap, but it's good enough only for 18th in class, 24th overall. And off track at turn number 1, and he might get one more opportunity. Ken Ausil, last effort here.
Pretty quick.
Up by 4 tenths, perhaps, maybe 5. That would be good enough to put him on pole. Comes under the bridge across the start-finish line, needs a 1:37.946, and he will do a 1:38.535, his best, but won't improve him even at 1 spot. Paul Darling has gone to the top of the board, by the way, in the Mustangs. He is on his final lap now, already up by 4 tenths on Kyle Herbst. I think we expected this, no Tomo this week, to battle Paul Darling, so it's going to be up to Kyle Herbst and Jake King to bring on the fight. Now, Tom's headed down for an endurance race at Circuit of the Americas. That's why he's not here this week.
That makes sense. Ooh, we see Paul Darling going flying off the track. So that's going to...
A little bit wrong there at turn 6, if we kind of ride on board here.
It is such a tricky corner to nail. Like we said, you have to kind of throw the car in at speed, hope you hit it right. Unfortunately, just went a little bit wide. I mean, in the race, that's nothing too terrible, but in qualifying, I'm going to completely invalidate his lap. So nothing really needs to improve because no one else is trying to beat 155 at the moment. So Darling will keep his pole position here. He's just having some fun throwing this around here.
Yeah, no other takers here in qualifying. Carlos Pratt's still rolling, but other than that, the entire field is qualified here, Finian. So pretty short races in this series, 30 minutes. That means that there's enough time to mess up. There's not a lot of time to make up a lot of mistakes, and here, especially with the lack of paved runoff, I see mistakes being a real big challenge to overcome tonight.
Yeah, I think definitely the trouble spots to look out for are going to be turn 1, turn 2 on the opening lap. And then as well as turn 6, the one where you're just looking at Darling going through, where you throw the car in. So, a lot of guys mess up on the opening laps in that particular corner. And then the corkscrew itself, many mistakes in the race we've seen over the past. No need to really mention that. And even the final corner, too, we've seen some incidents with guys trying to make passes and not really working out. So there are quite a few trouble spots around this track.
No qualifying effort for Colin Daner. That's perhaps a bit surprising. Jonathan Crane is rolling, but he's going to run out of time, Finney, and he will not get a chance to qualify. And he's going to start tail of the field, end of the longest line, because this is overall qualifying position. So he will start in 27th or 28th spot.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I think he would have been a little bit more lucky had this been the older, I think it used to be way back in the day where you would, when you would start a lap, it would take 1 lap because you would pass the start-finish line and pit lane, similar to what we see so you would actually be able to get at least some sort of time in. Unfortunately for him, he's going to have nothing. But he's going to try anyway. I think had he gotten in about a minute sooner, he would have had enough time.
It is counting this as lap 1, but as we've seen in the past, it doesn't allow that anymore, right?
Yeah, no, in the ATVO, it's counting it like how it used to. In the sim, it's still 0, lap 0 for him.
Oh, that is a bummer for Jonathan Crane. A little too late.
Yep, fortunately too little too late. Not sure if he probably had an internet issue or something else probably to attend to in real life, I would assume.
Real life?
So.
What's that? All right, qualifying is essentially complete. And pole sitters, Paul Darling in the 155 of the Mustangs and Morgan Burkhardt in the 2 MX5 category. Alessandrini and Herbst, MX5 and FR500 respectively, will make up the outside front row. We'll run through the entire starting lineup here in just a minute. Turn 1, lap 1, I guess turn 2, lap 1 down to the Andretti hairpin. We typically don't see a lot of first lap crashes at this track. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be that conducive to issues in turn 1 or 2. It does seem to cause a lot of problems up by the corkscrew, Finney. We kind of moved the trouble spot here. A lot of tracks like Watkins Glen, for example, or Road America, you'll see big incidents in turn 1. Here we just save it half a lap. But once you get through the corkscrew, then you're generally home free and safe.
Yeah, typically, I mean, we do see the off chance, the occasional spin down in the Andretti hairpin on lap 1. Not too often, though. Majority of the issues, like you said, happen in the corkscrew. So let's see if these guys can keep it calm and collected enough through there. We may not see anything. This is a pretty decently talented pool of driver, but usually we see a crash in the corkscrew because it's such a heavy braking zone. Someone tries to throw it up the inside, and unfortunately, a lot of times on lap 1 doesn't quite work out.
All right, head down to the racetrack now, and we'll get rolling through our starting lineup. Let's kick things off with the front row. We have a long pace lap here, so no particular rush on this. We start things off with Paul Darling in the number 155. He's on the front row in the Ford FR500 class. Kyle Herbst will line up alongside him in the number 89 in second.
And moving back, row number 2, we have Jay King in the 39 car. Mike Leader next to him in the 53, going to be lined up in 4th place.
In 5th place, it'll be Tala Sadiq in the number 28 Mustang. Trenton McMillian will round out the front-running Mustangs in 6th.
Still think that's an awesome name. Back in behind them, starting with the MX-5s, Morgan Burkhardt's going to be leading pole in that class. In the 2 car, next to him, DJ Alessandrini in 2nd place in the 61.
Starting in row 2 in the MX-5s, it's Andrew Pilata's number 96. Ken Howe-Seal starts 4th in the number 23.
Cale Patrick's going to be lined up in 5th place in the 998. Next to him, Ryan Maloney in the 19 in 6th place.
Starting in 7th, it's Jack Chrissy in the number 6. Sam Scott rolls off 8th, the number 98.
Andrew Chow's going to be lined up in 9th place in the 29 car. Next to him, Bob Casera in the 12 in 10th place.
Starting 11th, it's Will Robbins in the number 35. He'll start alongside Adam Koback, the number 85 in 12th.
I believe with Donald Louis, if I'm...
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I was saying it right. In 16 car in 13th, Wojciech Hajicek in the 8 car in 14th.
Starting 15th, it's Ryan Dunham in the number 3, and Sly Stafford starts 16th in the number 719.
Justin Huffman going to be lined up in the 30 in 17th. Carlos Pratt next to him, 18th in the 26 car.
Starting 19th, it's the 43 of Louis Alessi. Mark Mullen starts 20th in the number 4.
Back behind them, last row of MX5 is Jay Moore in the 10 car in 21st, Colin Daner in 22nd in the 15, who wasn't able to get a clean lap time in. And then oddly out of place is Jonathan Crane, the last Mustang, all the way behind the MX5s.
Yeah, he has got some work to do. This is what he sees out the cockpit of the 18 Ford Mustang. Thankfully, the field's a little bit smaller, so he won't have to pass 40 of them this time like a few did at Summit Point.
One of these cars is not like the other. One of these cars just doesn't belong.
You could fit an MX-5 in the trunk of this car.
It's hilarious the size it's trying to blend in, but it's not quite working out.
We had a moment like that at our Heartland finale, Finian, where we had a 370Z racing an NA Miata, first-gen Miata. And
yeah.
like it looked like the Miata fit in the grill of the 370Z. It was just wild. The size difference.
Actually, even better than that was when the Honda Odyssey was competing in GLTC. Especially compared to all the MX-5s, the Honda S2000, that thing was a monster compared to those.
That certainly is an interesting car to watch. All right, cars warming up, tires warming up the brakes. One last look here at the weather information before we get rolling here. It's a little bit warmer on the racetrack now, but this is not weather that I would say is going to be a problem in a 30-minute race. You're going to have a pretty easy time keeping the tires under you, as long as you don't slide those rear tires. The Mustangs especially, you have to be kind to the rubber because they're such heavy cars and on such little sidewall and such little tread, pretty easy to overheat everything.
Oh, absolutely. You definitely have to look after your equipment, especially with the tires, because there's so many high downforce corners around here. You're going to be laying on the tires because, as you mentioned, Mustangs don't really have a lot to rely on.
All right, field is coming to the control of the starter, and 6 Mustangs, 3 rows of 2, rolling through the final corner here and getting set to go racing at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. The 7th round of the WDCR SCCA Virtual Racing League is green. Darling, Herbst, King, leader, Sadiq, McMillian cross the start-finish line and head down towards turn number 1. Darling covers the inside. Herbst and King will fight for second behind him into turn number 1. Tight quarters here as the MX-5s launch past the start-finish line.
And King able to get by Hearst in turn 1 as you watch the MX-5s race their way on down single file for the first few rows of cars that you see in the background, all spread out, and already someone with engine damage.
That's Jack Chrissy, blew the engine up on the downshift, over-revved the car. This is actually a failure I haven't seen yet this season, but it's a surprisingly common issue, and he's going to stack up the pack behind him. Andrew Chow gets into the 6th, but his night is already over before it starts. I forgot how prevalent these issues were back in the Spec MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge, Finian, but these cars will not tolerate over-revs on downshifts.
I think we saw someone do something similar at VIR Road Atlanta. There hasn't been too many failures this season like that, but there definitely was one before, but everyone else will continue on. In the Mustangs, they're heading up to the corkscrew for the first time. Deep on the brakes, King trying to catch back up to Herbst. Can't quite get it done, a little bit squirrely under braking, bringing these heavy Mustangs to a halt.
The 53 of leader, kind of dead sideways, rolling down the hill as well, but Darling is stretched a 7/10 of a second gap, and Jake King wants back by, but he's going to have to get something a little bit more solid to really have a look. Here he comes into turn number 11, sweeps to the right as Herbst goes defensive, but then comes back to the racing line.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough battle. You can see that Captain Crunch machine sliding on the exit, and that's going to allow King to be side by side heading on the front straightaway. Or not, actually, backs out.
Yeah, if they want to catch Paul Darling, they have to sort it out who's faster real quick. They don't have a lot of time here. Up the outside comes Jake King through the Andretti hairpin. Darling apexing really late to build that run to turn 3, but Herbst hangs on. Is doing a great job defending.
All 6 Mustangs still very close together in the MX-5s. Also seeing the leaders, at least 2 of them really close together. Burkhardt, Allison, Drini, Plata, and everyone else still a little bit distant in behind. Whoa, Ken O'Seal was going to the back, Patrick under braking.
They had the ABS engaged and the car wiggled and wobbled. But he had to kind of panic brake there a little bit. Some passing going on behind him. Andrew Chow and Kovac side by side. This is for 9th.
Yeah, didn't see any incidents from this class on the start. Oh, as I say that.
No, there was Andrew Chow got into the back of the 6 of Chrissy when his engine let go at the exit of the Andretti hairpin, but nothing major. I think we've all gone pretty well behavior-wise since then. Here's Wojtek Heidesek, 16 of Donald Louis. He's going to go onto the dirt to get by him when we're 3 abreast into 5.
Very wide. This could end ugly if they don't give each other some space. Heidesek looks like he's going to win out, and that at fair. 16 still side by side with Chow. As Louis tries to race on, he'll get the run off the corner, and it looks like Chow's going to pull him behind.
Into turn 6 now. Tossing the car in. The MX-5s of this generation are pretty soft and compliant. Will allow you to kind of chuck the car in there and settle down. But they're so compliant that
oh, car spinning out of the final corner, hard into the wall.
Oh man, the second place car, and that car is tore up.
You're talking about managing that rear end of the car. You're going to see him heavy into the brakes here. Tries to get a solid exit. Actually, think that him catching some dirt on the apex might have not necessarily helped his case.
No, I think you're going to see him straddle the sausage curb here, and he throttles down along the dirt, and that's what sets the car loose.
Well, he needs a little bit, and you don't have traction control these things to help you.
There's the 6 back on track with a fast repair, but too little too late. Donald Louie chasing, or being chased by Andrew Chow in that 29, who's got some front end damage, but doesn't seem to be holding him back as he takes a look to the inside, down the front straight.
Side by side for both of them, deep into the brakes, and it looks like Chow is going to the advantage and will clear Louie.
Nice pass there for the 29 up into 11th position. And Pilata feeling some pressure from Patry in the 998 right now. They're about 1.7 seconds behind the second place car, but have their own little fight engaging. Ken Alseal's kind of dropped off. Doesn't seem to have the pace this week that I thought he'd have based on the initial first couple of rounds of the season. This week, it ain't bad, but it's not a win or a podium.
Yeah, I was going to say his competitors of Burkhardt and Nels Trudy, who he's been competing with week in, week out for these wins. Wow, you see Patry annihilate that curve there. You see the left side of the car get in the air. That actually allowed Alseal to kind of catch back up a little bit. Oh, he's got a car that's 98 of Sam Scott.
Yeah, on exit there, drops the right rear tire and then corrects it into the outside wall. But yeah, that inside curve, you've got enough ride height in these cars, as Leader's got a problem now in the 53. You've got enough ride height that you can actually get over the top of that curve. What happened to Leader here? Penalty? Must have been.
I'd be surprised we got a penalty.
Well,
I mean,
why would you drive into the wall otherwise unless he had to go? Here's Alseal past Patry for 4th. He'll grab that spot and go up one. Easy peasy.
Yeah, I guess so.
Up front, Nick King has kind of equalized Paul Darling's lap time. It's a little bit slower, but that gap has not expanded by as much in recent laps. Only 4 Mustangs left up there. It's been rival of the fittest so far. Jonathan Crane's top 5 while running 22nd overall.
Yeah, so it's kind of amazing how he's been able to move himself up the order. Trying to look through. Yeah, I mean, he's been working his way through the MX-5s pretty well. I think at the rate that we're going with the Mustangs, he might actually end up with a top because they're starting to drop like flies.
Andrew Pilata has got some rear end damage, so he's been run into at least once so far. I don't know who that damage belongs to.
I mean, I would assume that it's Patry because I don't think anyone else has been behind the 96.
That's what I would have thought, but I don't see any damage on the nose of that car unless this car is real strong. As Sly Stafford, look at this battle. Here's Colin Daner, who did not qualify, up to 14th place. 17th overall, but up a lot of spots in the overall running order. He's got a driver suit on that makes it look like he is not wearing fire suit. I think is entertaining. Watch his hands here as he comes in the shot. Not only not wearing a fire suit, not wearing clothes.
Maybe YouTube thinks that's not safe for work.
And Jonathan Crane is out. Mustangs have had a tough night tonight. Into the corkscrew and loose on entry, and that's a big spot to go off.
Yeah, I haven't quite seen that. Usually when people cut the and get some dirt like that, usually go straight on and just kind of miss their braking zone. But it's interesting to see. So it's down 3 Mustangs from the 7 that started this race. So still got the top 4 left.
A little scrap here. Colin Daner, Dunham, and Stafford is getting pretty spicy. And for 8th place, Will Robbins and Kovac. This is really interesting, and Andrew Chow's in the mix as well.
Kovac with a decent run off the corner. Going to look to the outside. You see Robbins trying to push him off the track, trying to keep him behind. It's going to allow Chow to try to make some moves, but can't quite as Kovac's got control of the situation. Whoa, does he say that? Get some dirt on entry, get some dirt on the apex, not on the exit though.
I love watching drivers in cars without a lot of horsepower using every inch of the road to try to carry as much speed and clobbering sausage curbs on the apex. They're not going to touch them at 5 here, but as we head up to 6, getting this right is really important. We'll get a great perspective though out the cockpit of the 29.
Go back a little bit of a shove to Robbins with some slipstream catching up to the back of that car.
And this uphill, it just feels like you're barely accelerating. You might gain 3 or 4 miles an hour, but you're really struggling against gravity here. Chow now heads for the corkscrew. Nice apex early. But again, what do you do? Where do you go? There's a car in front of you and not an easy way around it.
Oh, runs really wide on the entry, almost gets into the dirt and goes sideways, but just again, like you mentioned, just using up all the racetrack that's available, trying to make up speed, make up momentum, but can't quite get there. He's going to have another solid chance, though, heading to the front straightaway. Deep on the brakes, too deep, hits the 85.
Dropped his right rear tire in the dirt and could not get the car slowed down. It knocks the taillight up on Adam Kobach. Good thing he's got 2 of them. Battle for the lead. Alessandrini muscling his way by Burkhardt there. And just like that is through. Here's how that formulated here. He just got alongside him on the inside. And Burkhardt maybe thought he was going to play ball with him, but left him the inside space. And Alessandrini saw the opportunity and went for it.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't go a little bit more defensive. I guess maybe thought that DJ was going to wait till later on in the race to make a move.
But we haven't seen drivers be very aggressive with positions as we got Andrew Chow around at turn 2. We haven't seen drivers be very aggressive with passes in MX-5 up front. They've kind of been all pretty cooperative.
Balloon engine.
Oh. Yeah, the downshifting into turn 2 here is probably more strenuous because you're cornering and braking, so you're reducing your braking performance. At Summit Point or other similar places, you can brake all in a straight line and use all your performance in that straight line, and you're not worried about using the gearbox to slow the car down. Here you kind of want a little bit of engine braking to supplement the tire grip, and a little too much will hurt you.
Yeah, just want to mention quickly, nothing really going on in the Mustang category. Everyone's kind of separated out by a few seconds piece to each other, so going to keep most of the battles in action is going on in MX-5. So if you look at the 2 leaders, Alessandrini and Burkhardt breaking away, and they've broken away nicely. 4 seconds back to Andrew Pilata, so they're very much clear of any traffic behind this. Pilata with Hausil, Petri, and Maloney also has approached this battle, so he's starting to kind of poke his nose into this fight.
Actually kind of interesting because the MX-5s really haven't been the star of the show every round like they typically are with the new generation MX-5, but this race has been kind of the opposite, maybe because of the smaller field size and the early retirements from the Ford group, but today it really has been more interesting in this NC generation MX-5. Now, it does drive a little bit less on edge than the newer car, and I think for some it makes it a little harder to make up advantage on a guy in front of you because you're all driving really, it trends to understeer, so you're driving safely in that sense.
Pretty much as you watch these guys work their way on through turn 6.
Interesting that Burkhardt is actually downshifting at turn 5 to a lower gear than he probably could. He was on the rev limiter all the way through 5 and a little wide there at 6. And you have to consider when you make that shift is time. So are you losing more time shifting or more time being a little bit out of the rev range there? That's a trade-off that drivers will have to figure out over time, but it's often one of the biggest differentiating factors as they both take a chunk of dirt out of the side of the hill at the corkscrew.
I honestly had to check and make sure DD didn't cut there because he took a very sizable helping. I think narrowly avoided cutting the course there as he took a huge helping of dirt on the apex.
Look at it here in slow motion to get a pretty good idea of how aggressive they are with the track limit. You can get a lot of it, it feels like at some points, and then other times you'll barely touch the edge and you'll feel like you got hammered here. Down the hill and over the crest here, watch this. Very close, and actually Morgan Burkhardt is the one I would have thought cut there.
Yeah, neither did. I was checking to see if anyone got anything from that, but nope. Officials going to turn a blind eye, it seems, to those 2 incidents.
Leslie's had a problem, unfortunately. It has not been a particularly great night, but off at, I think this is up at 6, and back across the road, and just, oh man, that concrete is unforgiving.
Yeah, it's always unfortunate because you think you can just safely merge on, but when you catch the tires and they grip up instantly, you lose control. Taking a look back, kid, how Seal now over the back. Plata looking a little bit more aggressive now.
Yeah, this is getting pretty spicy here for 3rd place. Podium spot. We're not going to catch the leaders unless they really start to scrap, but we still aren't quite yet to halfway, so there's still time. Oh, and Pilata bobbled it there, and he's always missed a shift. He's in neutral, and Hausil will take that opportunity, drive around him, and beat him to turn 6.
Solid job by Hausil. Now, big question for him really is, can he try to catch up to Burkhardt and Alessandrini because they're not really fighting with each other, just kind of Sorry, I was just listening to what Plata said. He said pile of expletive shifter.
Box full of neutrals.
Yeah.
Actually, both these cars have their issues with shifting. They are definitely one of the least forgiving gearboxes in the entire simulator, and they can be really frustrating.
Yeah, especially because really, and I'm sure a lot of people are having trouble with it, because these cars aren't really actively raced a whole lot anymore. You know, Mustang isn't really used a whole lot in general, and this version of the MX-5 is technically legacy content.
Ooh, Patry and Pilata door-to-door at 11, and Patry used up a lot of road there and didn't leave Pilata a ton. They will come out the other side in one piece. Morgan Burkhardt has tracked Alessandrini back down to just 2/10, so it's getting close for first and now for fourth.
A little bit of tap.
He's going to be way out wide, though.
Oh, can he keep it on the track? Barely. He's going to go off. There goes Maloney, and Patrick actually trying to give up the time to let Pelota get back in line.
Felt bad about that, I'm sure. And yeah, just he hammered the rear of the 96, and then Pelota tried to get it slowed down and just took it all the way to the edge of the road. And the 19 of Maloney granted 2 spots there, and Pelota's night is over. Did he crash after that, or did he just pull off?
I don't know, because I actually wasn't paying attention.
I just pulled off.
Huh.
It's really hard to make up ground after something like that.
Ooh, and it looks like Caleb Patry has a black flag.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm going to assume it's for having too many incidents.
Could be. Here's Tala Sadiq and Trent McMillan battling for podium spot here in Mustangs. McMillan is on the inside in the 14 car. The red and black car is Tala Sadiq in the 28. Give McMillan third.
See McMillan can hold on to this. Both these guys pretty far separated from King and Darling up the road. Even Darling and King have a decent amount of separation. 6 seconds between the leaders.
McMillan was on the brakes out of turn 3, which was interesting. I don't think I've seen that. But Sadiq didn't have a good enough run to capitalize on it. Through 5 there, though. Sadiq a lot better on entry. And a lot of this comes down to the shifting. Again, these are both pretty traditional cars that require heel toe downshifting and that sort of thing. And getting through the gears efficiently is a big piece of this. Ryan Dunham has had a problem now, too. And for a track that everyone, wow, he was way off at 9. Oh, man. Yeah. For a track that everyone kind of learns on when they get into the sim initially, this has been a real challenge, hasn't it?
That is the funny thing that you point out, because this and Okayama are like the 2 major tracks that you get free. Though that's been slowly changing over the years, but I think for a majority of people that are in this race when they join the service, those are the 2 main free pieces of content. So yeah, it is kind of surprising that people, and they race probably in this car too.
Yeah.
So it is a bit surprising that we're seeing so many incidents.
By the way, relevant to the DC region, it was announced today that Virginia International Raceway is getting a full rescan and is now becoming base iRacing content in the coming weeks after the upcoming December build, which will be next Tuesday. So that is really exciting because VIR is one of the most commonly used tracks here in this league, and it's going to finally look the part. Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think the admin's probably kicking themselves because if they just put VIR a little bit further down in the schedule,
we should do it again. I think we should do it again. Seriously.
Well, let's see.
We've been waiting that long for it, you know, you might as well.
We don't have too many rounds left. We got Charlotte Roval, Lime Rock, and that's it. And then we got GT4s at Long Beach. So after that, so not a whole lot of races left.
Do GT4s at VIR. Sounds like a good solution to me. Here's some lap traffic for McMillan and Sadiq. McMillan gets by Sadiq. Ooh, that was real awkward there. He's going to lose a ton of time.
Yeah, it's one of those places where you really follow a car through. You really don't want to try to pass a car through there, otherwise you get an awkward interaction like that. Luckily, at least everyone made it out through the other end. Looking at Alessandrini and Burkhardt work their way on through turn 2.
For the lead in MX-5, for the lead in FR500, no challenge. Paul Darling's got all the time in the world, 6.6 seconds to carve his way through traffic. There's not a whole lot of groups of cars here, so he should be able to easily get by this traffic with 12 minutes left on the board.
Well, we're saying that, although we've seen quite a few incidents. Really, the main thing facing Paul Darling when he works through these lap traffic is if that traffic makes a mistake and he gets wrapped up into it.
Yeah, no groups, but they can certainly be a hazard on their own, that's for sure. 12 minutes left in this 30-minute event, and Morgan Burkhardt still keeping the pressure on Alessandrini, and DJ caught him by surprise. There's no reason Burkhardt couldn't do the same, that 61 out front.
I think that's probably the best thing to do right now, just kind of wait patiently in behind and try to attack DJ when he's least expecting it. Obviously, it's easier said than done, because that's kind of a hard thing to catch DJ on the flip side of things, not expecting an attack.
That's why I really like when we go to Road Atlanta, because that is a very predictable last corner maneuver. Is that turn 10A and 10B Road Atlanta maneuver. And it's fascinating to watch people kind of science that out. DJ is one of those people I like to watch because the move is so predictable. It's rare that someone ever does something that is new. And this is what Morgan's going to have to fight against with DJ. Is DJ's been in this position a ton. What can you do in a place that DJ hasn't seen it before that's going to actually catch him off guard and make him lose the position? You're not going to do it in a traditional braking zone, in a traditional corner. You're going to have to get creative with it to make this pass happen.
Yeah, problem is though is that it's really hard to make something happen that's not in a traditional passing zone, because there's a reason those are passing zones. So to try to make sure, rely on DJ making a mistake, that's something you really can't bet on. Doesn't really make a whole lot of mistakes unless he's in a rig that he's not familiar with.
Yeah,
as we
that
saw at
Muskogan. Sometimes it doesn't throw him off though. I've seen him do that before and it worked out for him.
I guess unless he misses with his paddle shifters.
Yeah.
I doubt he's using that wheel, but...
Burkhardt and Alessandrini for the lead in MX-5. This is the closest battle on the racetrack at the moment. You're not missing anything. 1/3 of the race left to go. Over the crest, good run there for Morgan, but DJ just carries so much mid-corner speed that he nets out a positive on the run down through 7-8.
If I'm in Burkhardt, it's a really tough position to try to find a way around DJ, and he's only going to start running out of more time here. As we just get to 10 minutes remaining, we're going to have just about 7-8 more laps left in this race, so it's not a whole lot of time.
Across the line here, where is Paul Darling? Darling is entering turn 9 now, so he should, in theory, get around to catch D. No, maybe not. It's going to be close whether Paul gets there or not.
I think he will. He's got like just over a straightaway to them.
Been expanding his lead. It's now 7.4 in the traffic. But the closest fight continues to be the one for the top spot in MX-5, so you're missing nothing there. I mean, think about when you get DJ out front, you're struggling not only to pass him, but also just to keep pace with him. The point where you actually have control over when you have a chance to pass. Going back to what you said, there's a reason why places are passing zones. Well, any place is a passing zone if you're that much faster than the guy ahead, but if you're just barely clinging on and just going to try to send it to get by him, you don't really have a lot of choice. You don't get to give yourself that choice.
I mean, I guess you could try to get creative in the corkscrew by just absolutely sending it up either left or right side, but
then what?
Probably not going to end pretty.
Yeah, but then where do you go? You get to 9, and then if you're on the outside, you'll get turned underneath, and if you're on the inside, you'll get over-under at 10. So it's hard to build a run out of the corkscrew. Really, I mean, definitely a corner that you can pass in. It's just you pass the guy, and you end up right in front of him again, where he can get you right back. Trying to get back on throttle earlier at 11, and it actually worked out pretty well. But he didn't get through the gears as well as DJ. At least not the first shift. The second one was a lot better. So much of this comes down to your shifting efficiency. So here's the run that DJ took, and Morgan went for it, but DJ covered it that time, going back to predictability. And by the way, Talladega and McMillan side by side again.
I was saying the corkscrew nonetheless. Duking it out now, coming down the hill, and it looks like Sadiq's going to win out on that occasion.
But over/under I was talking about, although McMillan didn't use it.
Oh, this is actually interesting. They went 3 wide with a lap car entering the corkscrew surprise, and they ended up going through one piece.
McMillan's late on the brakes, but he gets it stopped. A little bit of nose damage as well that he's picked up along the way. Fights around the racetrack at the moment for the lead in MX-5 and for third for the podium in the FR 500 class.
Flying through turn 6, both of them in the sand.
They've added a little bit of a strip of AstroTurf there now in real life, and just for that exact reason.
Yeah. I don't blame him because I mean I would think almost every car would be dipping the wheel off. It's going to throw sand everywhere.
You can actually see down the corkscrew all this dirt that everyone has dumped on the racetrack.
I was going to say, even in real life on the apex, both those corners they put asphalt for the same reason.
Oh, what happened? Oh, DJ's got to slow down. DJ lost the lead while we were watching that.
Yep.
The corkscrew.
He's got to slide down. He's still serving that slowdown.
What, on the entry?
I think either entry, maybe?
Right here. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely. We were watching it from this angle, but if you switch around, that is definitely a cut at the corkscrew entry, and a little bit of greed is going to cost him probably the win here. That's a lot of time to make up 1.5 seconds.
Well, I like this, though, because you're going to see DJ in the back foot and try to catch back up to Burkhardt, so this will be fun to see.
It's going to force him to be extra aggressive. So let's log lap times here. So DJ's best time is a 1:38.1. Morgan's best time is a 1:38.1 also. Morgan's last lap was a 39.9. Alessandri's going to have to basically run one of these next 3 laps faster than he has gone entire race.
Well, I think if there's anyone... Oh, Burkhardt was sideways. You can see the sand kicked up from there. We're going to take a look at that.
Yeah,
it's a wreck coming out of turn 4.
It's 1.3 seconds between them now, and Morgan can't overdrive this. He's got an advantage. He doesn't need to throw it away. If he just runs the laps he has been running, he was way off track there. If he just runs the laps he's been running, he'll be fine. He just can't panic about this and have the advantage and overdrive trying to maintain it. You got time to bleed, so bleed it. Don't overdrive yourself trying to get away. Don't slow down either. Just drive the way that you were driving before.
And more importantly, don't get yourself to slow down.
Yeah. Oh, DJ, I think, is going to get another one there.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and that's going to seal the fate there, I think. And this
Aggressive didn't go around in this case, but Aggressive did get a black flag.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Oh, yeah. Not even close.
Yeah, that was the desperate attempt. I don't think he needed to get that desperate that quick, but it's going to cost him. Whoop, Darling weaving his way through some traffic. He's up to 4th place, Ryan Maloney now, and he's going to sweep to the left. And he's coming back to 3 laps to go.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things as a driver, you tell yourself, oh, I need to be more aggressive, I need to cut this corner just by a little bit, and then unfortunately when you're kind of driving a little bit hot too, he's probably frustrated, he got that black flag, you just push yourself just a little bit too far over the edge, and that's when you start getting some black flags like that, especially in corners where it's so easy to cut.
He actually made up 2/10 on Morgan in that lap alone before he got that second penalty, so he might have had a shot to run him back down. The gap was only 1.1, which is almost in drafting distance also. I know these cars are not that strong, but I think he kind of doubled down on his own issue there, unfortunately. So that will bleed off the battle for the win in MX5. It's now 2.6 seconds, but not even close in Ford, where Paul Darling has an 11-second advantage. And this is what happens when your main competitor has an issue early. You're just kind of logging laps at that point.
Yeah, and your other main competitor is not in the server. in the server as well. Whoa! A little bit wide. Yeah, looking up here, not a whole lot of battles going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's simplified out at this stage. There is one. It's this one.
Yeah,
Carlos Pratt, Patry, and Huffman were 11th in class.
Whew, that almost got ugly. Oh, still almost got hello.
Banging doors.
Dooring each other. And Patry making a little after he had to serve a black flag. He had to serve a drive-through for having too many incidents, so that's why he's all the way back there in this mess.
Oh, Pratt sideways into 5. He gathered it up and actually didn't lose a whole lot of time, but that thing was dead sideways.
Almost like he gained time there. Coming off the corner.
Up the stretch towards the corkscrew now. 3 minutes to go, and it will be 2 laps left for Paul Darling this time by, but closest fight on the racetrack. Morgan's actually extending his lead now. At the pointy end of this class is now 2.9 seconds as Huffman has a look at Carlos Pratt in turn 9.
Getting up close, you see Pratt, the car leaning, taking all the weight.
You know what's fascinating? All these changes to the cars and the tracks and the tires over time. I remember back in the day when this car was still supreme, running the same lap times to have to be at the front of a rookie race. 39s to 38s. I remember that. I think at the time it might have been a hair quicker where like a 37 was possible if you were an alien. At least alien in the rookie sense. But I remember running 38s and 39s here all the time and being top 5 and logging some laps here. But
on an Xbox controller.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, yes. But, I mean, this is before that. I'm talking like pre-Kyle on iRacing.
Oh, okay.
On other people's accounts doing naughty things. Yeah, I mean, it was different days back then. No dynamic track, no dynamic sky, but shows the iRacing had things right. Whoop, as really get after it.
We'll start going after the closing laps here. Hopefully they don't take each other out. Last thing we need.
Best fight on the road, except for the one up the road. Sly Stafford and Caleb Patry. Caleb's on a recovery. Could make pretty quick work here of Sly. 2 turns in a little early to 6, bounces off the curb, has to lift, but he swings to the right.
Gonna work his way on through on the right-hand side. Here they come to the braking zone, almost dooring each other into the hairpin. I mean, not the hairpin, the corkscrew. Almost a wreck there.
Yeah, they were tangled up for a second. I don't think they'll be thrilled with each other either. As there's Sam Scott, who's 2 laps down, just race out. Paul Darling, as he already taken the white flag, it looks like he has. We are on the final lap of this race as he's now given a push and a shove to DJ Alessandrini. Yes. It's going to be too little too late, though. No way that it's going to help. Well, let's see. It's 3.6 right now.
I guess we're going to try to let DJ not be allowed down, just to have at least some sort of attempt at catching Morgan.
Well, they're the only 2 drivers left on the lead lap, so it wouldn't all matter all that much. He did gain some time, though, on Morgan, so that strategy would have worked long term.
Well, they got the front straightaway still, maybe have something to catch up.
Well, DJ was losing ground pretty consistently for this.
And I think he figured might as well not, no reason to push. Ken's not going to catch him from behind, and Morgan's not going to do anything. He wasn't really going to catch Morgan.
So Paul Darling in the number 155 Mustang, the Satellite Racing Team car, from pole to win. Battled off not a whole lot else today other than time. Gives DJ one final punch across the start-finish line, and Darling will pick up the win in round number 7 of the 2022 season. And we'll jump a little bit deeper. We got a little ways to go for the rest of the field. Carlos Pratt and Justin Huffman already lapped down the leader. Huffman's off course. This is the closest fight in the MX-5 class. Now, DJ did eat in about a second out of Burkhardt's lead. It's now 2.9, 2.8. But again, it's a futile attempt here to get back to him.
Despite also those shoves from Paul Darling, Burkhardt went about 0.2 faster that lap.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, Morgan Burkhardt has worked really hard this season and has had some great results. And in this race, he kind of got bamboozled, caught off guard early. DJ got by. Then he was setting up for a pass and might have had a chance to do it, but DJ shot himself in the foot not once but twice. Morgan since then has been kind of free sailing out front.
Yeah, he's done a really solid job, made no mistakes. I would say the only mistake he made was when he allowed DJ to get by him early in the race. Other than that, sat behind DJ, waited for DJ to make a mistake, and then took advantage and never looked back.
A couple corners left for Morgan Burkhardt in the Team Hardpoint car. And this time through, DJ is going really quick, but it's not going to be enough. 2.3 seconds is what he's got left on the table, but Morgan Burkhardt in the NC Generation MX-5 will bring home victory in the second class today. Alessandrini second, and then of course Ken Ausil and Ryan Maloney, the rest of your top 4. Let's have a look at our race results before we hopefully chat with a couple of folks here before we call it a night. Paul Darling, Jake King on the top of the board in Mustangs. Only 4 of our 7 Mustangs finished. It was a tough day out there for the FR500 group.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see the big gaps. Other than really between Sadiq and McMillan, wasn't a whole lot of action there. Darling just kind of went and walked away with it after his main competition wrecked out early. And we obviously had the race winners in MX-5, Morgan Burkhardt, and then DJ probably going to be disappointed with the way that finished because he finished 2 seconds behind Burkhardt and not in the lead. So DJ, it's a horrible day, horrible race for him. Ken Ausil in third, Maloney, Kusira, Robbins rounding out the rest of the grid.
I would joke that he's tied his worst finish of the season, but he actually has had an actual bad finish this season. So
oh yeah.
can't make that joke. But moving on out of the next page, Colin Daner down there in 7th overall, Adam Koback, Donald Louie, Caleb Patry, the rest of the top 10 in MX5. Then it was Sly Stafford, Pratt, Huffman, Mullen, and Moore, the rest of the top 15. You have a look at the drivers that didn't have such a good day. Jack Chrissy on down. Some drivers that had some crashes, some incidents, and some resets. For Chrissy, it was a motor. I think one of the other MX5s, was it Pilata or no, Chow was the other that blew a motor.
Yes.
And others that had some issues along the way. All right, wrapping things up here. We'll see. Wait another minute and see if we can get a couple of our winners. And I'd expect Morgan and DJ to hop in here as they typically do. Paul is a hit or miss. We'll see how things go here. But final thoughts here on WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, Finian, and then getting ourselves set for the next week of racing.
Yeah, another solid race, especially in the MX-5s. The Mustangs, not too much competition after the opening laps. The MX-5s were fun to watch until AJ made his a little bit of an error, but solid stuff. Interested in seeing how they're going to do the Charlotte Roval. I don't think I've seen MX-5s around the new Charlotte Roval. I remember seeing a lot of MX-5s around the old Charlotte Roval.
Can't remember if I've seen that before. I've seen Mustangs there before. They're a pretty good fit. Then we had to Lime Rock for our season finale in terms of points. And then Long Beach in GT4. That's our overall season finale, non-points event, though. Finian, I think we're going to call that a night unless they pop in here by the time I'm done finishing our outro. But a pretty fun race tonight. Some good battles in the MX-5 and in Mustangs. Probably needed a few more cars in the FR500 class, but the MX-5s put on another show, as they always do.
Yeah, absolutely. Solid race all around from everyone.
All right, we're going to call it a night. We'll see you next week at the next one. We'll head to the Charlotte Roval on December 7th. See you there.